Steve Jobs was born in 1955 in San Francisco and was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs. Born and raised in his pre-Silicon Valley era, Jobs was always a bit different. He once stated, "LSD, I think, changes consciousness. Taking LSD was one of the most profound experiences and one of the most important things in my life." Even as a teenager, Jobs challenged authority. As a child, he was brilliant, but also incredibly difficult to handle, as this pattern continued well into his adult life. In 1976, alongside Steve Wozniak, Jobs founded Apple in a garage. Their first computer, the Apple I, was built entirely by hand, but it was the Apple II that made him famous. It made Jobs so famous, he became a millionaire by the age of 25. In the early 1980s, Jobs set his sights on something even more ambitious, the Macintosh. He didn't want to make a better computer, he wanted to reinvent it. The relationship between humans and machines. The Macintosh was compact, visually appealing, and introduced the world to the graphical user interface. At a theatrical product launch in 1984, Jobs stood on the stage and declared,
"Hello, I am Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag."
It was classic Jobs, part showman, part visionary. But behind that curtain, things weren't always so glamorous. Jobs was not only a difficult leader, he betrayed employees, rejected compromises, and created what colleagues referred as a reality distortion field, where facts spent around his vision. Guy Kosowski, an early Apple envisionist, once said that Jobs could convince me that the sky was green if he wanted me to, but if you crossed him, you were toast. Eventually, his confrontational style led to a dramatic power struggle. In 1985, Jobs was forced out of the company he helped create, and it was a crushing blow, but only the beginning of the next chapter. After Apple, Jobs didn't slow down. He launched Next, a high-end computer company aimed at higher education and research institutions. While Next computers never took off commercially, the software developed would have later been the foundation of the modern OS system. At the same time, Jobs made another bold move. He purchased a small struggling animation company called Pixar from George Lucas for $5 million. At first, Pixar was a risky bet, but it paid off in no way could have been predicted. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the world's first fully computer animated feature film. It was a breakthrough, both artistically and technology. Even Jobs announced it as a perfect blend of art and technology. It was a huge box office success. And that would define his entire career. Quietly and steadily, he was reinventing himself and setting the stage for a spectacular return. In 1977, Apple was almost bankrupt. It was like something out of a movie. They brought Jobs back. His return marked a new era. His return came with the iMac, then the iPod, and then the iPhone, all three in one. Each changed the game, he said. People don't know what they want until you show them. And love it or hate him, he was right. Apple was the most valuable company, and he redefined the consumer electronics and made tech cool. But he didn't change. Behind the sleek marketing, the man was still a difficult, demanding man. Jobs was never really easy to define. His flaws were visible in his genius. He frequently parked in handicapped spots, clashed with colleagues, and made cold business decisions. He denied his early stock options to loyal employees and disowned his own daughter Lisa, even after a DNA proof he was the father. Kristen Brennan, Lisa's mother, once wrote in a memoir, "He was brilliant, but he was also cold and unpredictable." And yet, many who worked with him closely said that the same intensity brought out their best. Johnny Ive, Apple's head of design, described him as both inspiring and infuriating. He could drive people crazy with intensity, but he got the very best out of us, Ive said. In 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He refused surgery for months, trying alternate diets and treatments at first. But then he finally relented. The cancer has spread. He died in 2011 at the age of 56. His death sparked worldwide mourning. People left apples outside the Apple stores. Fans wept. Even rivals like Bill Gates called him profoundly influential.
Hi, I'm Brandon Burris, and this is my history project on one of the most impactful and controversial figures of the last 50 years, Bill Gates. I chose Gates because his influence is everywhere. from personal computers and software to the internet, global health, and even the pandemic. My main source was The Road Ahead, written by Bill Gates. He writes about how the internet would reshape business, communication, and daily life in the upcoming decades. While Gates is often praised as a tech visionary, a philanthropist, others see him as a monopolist who used his wealth to shape public policy. Even today, he is admired and is trusted. Gates was born in 1955 in Seattle to a successful and well-connected family. His father was a lawyer and his mother served on corporate boards, including IBM's. From a young age, Gates excelled at math and reading and showed an intense competitive streak. At 13, he attended the Lakeside School, where he discovered computers and met Paul Allen. They spent hours programming together, and their friendship would later lead to Microsoft. Gates enrolled at Harvard, but dropped out in 1975 to start Microsoft after seeing the potential of the MIT's Altair, an early personal computer. The biography highlights how Gates was never just smart. He was strategic and always thinking several moves ahead. In 1980, IBM asked Microsoft to provide an operating system for its first personal computer. Gates didn't have one, but he found and bought QDOS from a small developer, renamed it MS-DOS, and licensed it to be IBM. The key, Microsoft kept the rights to sell it to others. That single decision helped Microsoft dominate the PC market. Over the next decade, Microsoft released Windows 1.0, 3.0, and 95, turning Gates into the world's richest man. He was hands-on, demanding, and often harsh. According to the biography, he'd interrupt meetings to say, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." But Gates' tactics drew legal trouble. In late 1990s, Microsoft was sued by the US government for anti-competitive behavior, especially for bundling Internet Explorer with Windows to crush Netscape. His defensive testimony hurt his image and revealed the cost of Microsoft's dominance. Gates' success came with real flaws. He was intensely competitive, impatient, and sometimes ruthless. Microsoft insiders described him a culture of fear, where mistakes were publicly called out. He focused so much on dominating the market that he overlooked ethical concerns, like using his platform to shut out rivals. He also underestimated the internet's importance at first, almost costing Microsoft its lead. The antitrust case didn't break up Microsoft, but it changed how the world saw Gates. From tech genius to power-hungry executive, his story reminds us that even visionaries are still human and deeply flawed. In the 2000s, Gates stepped down from the daily work at Microsoft and focused on philanthropy. He and his then wife Melinda founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, now one of the largest charities in the world. It's given billions to fight malaria, HIV, and AIDS, and fund vaccines and education. Gates has become a global health leader, but also a controversial one. Some argue that no billionaire should have this much influence over public policy. His foundation has more resources than many governments, raising questions about his transparency and democracy. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Gates was both praised for his vaccines efforts and targeted by conspiracy theories. Some claimed, without evidence, that he was using the pandemic to control people. So, how should we remember him? As someone who revolutionized tech and tried to do good, but also a man whose power raises serious questions. Bill Gates is a complex figure, brilliant but ruthless, generous but powerful. He changed how the world works, both through Microsoft and his foundation. Studying Gates taught me that history isn't just black and white. Figures like him defy simple labels. They're shaped by ambition, opportunity, and the world around them. Whether we see him as a hero or a cautionary tale, one thing is clear. Bill Gates helped define the modern era.
The story of Steve Jobs extends beyond his technological developments. Can a person be a visionary leader while maintaining significant personal flaws? Can a genius excuse bad behavior? He once said, "We're here to put a dent in the world," and he did. But he also left a dent in people's lives, his colleagues, his families, and even some fans. Thank you for watching this video. For this project, I read the book Steve Jobs by Walter Isaac, and I believe y'all should too. You learn a lot about Steve Jobs and more about his personality. Don't forget to hit that like button, and thank you for all the friends we made along the way.